Well, Solar Ash is all about how you traverse across the environment. You're elegantly skating across the clouds, leaping and jumping as you go. So paired with the fantastic movement mechanics of puzzle sequences and huge boss fights, which reminded me of Shadow of the Colossus. And Solar Ash is from the same development team that brought us Hyper Light Drifter, and while the game doesn't quite live up to the hype of Heart Machine's previous title, so it's a grower, and I think you'll enjoy it the more you play. Well, the world is vivid in colour. You've got pinks, purples, and deep reds scatter the landscape as you glide across it. However, there's something not quite right with the world, as it's covered in corruption. So Ray, the main protagonist in the game, and the being you control throughout, has to rid the world of the corruption and find clues pointing to where the other Void Runners have gone. So partnering with the corruption of these huge anomalies, giant beasts roaming the broken lands, and we have to save the day. Well, Solar Ash is similar in a few ways to Hyper Light Drifter. The colours, they're bright and they pop from the screen, although Solar Ash is played in the 3D space rather than the 2D pixel art of Heart Machine's previous game. You know, a major difference this time is the dialogue and the story. So last time we hardly had anything at all, but in Solar Ash the main characters are voiced, plus you've got plenty of other story and audio logs to find scattered all throughout the place, which builds up the world and the characters nicely. Well, you play as Ray, a Void Runner who's travelled back inside a black hole called the Ultra Void, and it's up to you to find out what happened to the rest of the Void Runners. You know, as well as finding out what happened to your buddies, you have to restart a piece of technology called the Star Seed, which should hopefully close the black hole and save Ray's planet from certain destruction. And to do this, you have to solve puzzles in various areas to defeat the anomalies. Well, the gameplay in Solar Ash is all about action platforming, and it's played from the third-person perspective, and you can run and jump as standard. You've also got the ability to skate around the environment at the press of a button, and that means you instantly gain speed, and you can glide across the surface with ease. And you also have a grappling hook that allows you to connect to targets and traverse across the environments with relative ease. So Ray in motion feels great in the game, and it's similar to what an open world Sonic the Hedgehog could feel like. So at a moment's notice you can put on your skates, and you get a burst of speed, and that makes travelling distances in the game feel very, very good. And the game is split into 3 modes basically. You've got the puzzles and the platforming, when you're trying to figure out how to get to hard to reach locations. Then you've got the combat against tough little enemies. And finally, you've got the boss battles, which are going to test your skill and timing to the extreme. Well, the platforming and puzzles do offer up a reasonable challenge. You do have a handy compass on your wrist that allows you to scan at any moment and give yourself a reminder on where to go. So even though you have a reminder on where to go, it doesn't mean getting there is going to be easy. So this is going to involve skating, jumping, probably climbing up some black goo until you can get there. Then you've got these small enemies. You know, they may be small, but they do pack a serious punch. You know, they are arachnid-like creatures that scurry towards you very fast, often shooting out projectiles or lasers in your direction. So make sure to repair your shields at your companion in each level. I didn't realise I had to do this until the 3rd area, which means I was severely depleted when it came to my energy. That translated into 2 hits and I was dead. You know, enemies are diverse, they're tricky, they're full of surprises, so definitely keep your eyes peeled. So the smaller enemies are only really the starter to the Anomaly main course, so the main objective to each zone is to unlock the boss battles and use a combination of platforming speed and traversal to defeat the huge beasts. The first one in the training area is nice and simple to get you eased into things. It's only when you face the Forgotten Thresher in the 2nd area that you understand what the game is all about. So this is where Solar Ash truly shines. I would say if you play the game, play at least until you get to beat the Forgotten Thresher. So I've seen some feedback from other players on Solar Ash saying the game was boring, but personally I didn't really find this to be the case. So once you unleash the anomalies in the area, you do have to grapple onto them and then start the traversal, and they tend to have 3 phases, each more difficult than the last when it comes to timing, dashing and attacking. And it'll probably take you a few goes, but this is a really good example of getting into a flow state in a game. So at first the controls feel a little bit cumbersome, but after a few tries you'll definitely get into a rhythm. So I let out an audible yell when I beat the boss. You know, it was that satisfying. Up until that point I was starting to lag on the game and wondering whether I was going to continue, but I'm really, really glad I did, and I've been chasing that feeling again and again in Solar Ash ever since. So any game that can draw out emotions like that is a good one in my book. Well, as well as the excellent boss battles, there's plenty of items to collect as well. So you've got suit upgrades and audio logs, and the suit upgrades include increasing damage or reducing the boost cooldown, and various helpful upgrades that are going to help you out in the latter parts of the game. The audio logs are a nice touch, although the story and lore do feel a little bit confusing and dense. There's just so much of it. And while I appreciate the work put in, it did feel a little bit too much, and I would have loved to see more in the game rather than a side feature to read through. Well, Solar Ash is a bit of a mixed bag. So on one hand, you've got great feeling, fluid movement, and really exciting boss battles. On the other hand, there's the dense lore and sometimes frustrating movement quirks, which can lead to an early death if you're not pinpoint in your execution. Now overall, I'm definitely more positive about the game than negative. Plus, I'm really happy to see Heart Machine put out another game after the wonderful Hyperlight Drifter. So all this quick movement does feel like a trend we're about to see, starting off with Solar Ash. Next year we've got Forspoken, and then also we've got a new Sonic game coming. But if the new Sonic game feels half as good as Solar Ash, I think there's going to be a lot of happy gamers. Well, the game was developed by Heart Machine. It was published by Annapurna Interactive. It's available for PC via the Epic Game Store, the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5, and the game was originally released on the 2nd of December 2021. Well, that is it for my review of Solar Ash. Well, as always, thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button down below and subscribe to This Week in Video Games. If you want to join the community, check out the Discord link in the description, or you can follow me on Twitter at TWIVGPodcast. If you enjoyed this video, found it useful, liking and sharing the video would really help me out. Otherwise, check out the other videos on the channel. Well, thanks again. I'll see you soon.